If you all remember, just recently we read a book about the holiday that's happening right now, Ramadan, which is an important holiday to Muslims. And during this holiday, many Muslims fast for the entire day. So they eat before the sun rises, and then they don't eat, and sometimes they don't even drink all the way until sunset. And then they have a big meal with their families. So today we're going to read a book called Lailah's Lunchbox. And this book is about a little girl named Lailah, and her family is celebrating Ramadan, and she has a little bit of trouble explaining it to her friends at school. So we're going to read this book together and find out what happens to Lailah. So Lailah's Lunchbox, a Ramadan story by Reem Faruqi, illustrations by Lea Lyon. We won't be needing this for a while, said Lailah's mother, hanging up Lailah's lunchbox. Imagine! I won't be eating lunch for a month, replied Lailah with a twirl. I won't have to pack lunch for a month, said her mom with a bigger twirl. So since they don't eat during the day, she wouldn't be eating her lunch. The year before, Lailah had wanted to fast with her best friends, Hind and Ishrat, during Ramadan, but Lailah's mom had insisted she was too small. Remembering that, Lailah stopped twirling. She missed her friends. Moving from one continent to another had been hard. On the map in her atlas, North America and the Middle East were 10 inches apart. But in real life, she was so much farther away. She wished she was only 10 inches away from Hind and Ishrat. She knew the sign by the highway said Peachtree City. You'll love to call it home. But she didn't agree with the sign. Abu Dhabi still felt like her home. So if you look really close, it's kind of hard to see, but Abu Dhabi is where her family is from. It's over in the Middle East. And then she moved all the way to Peachtree City, which is here in America. The next morning, before sunrise, Lailah's mom gently nudged her. Lailah, she whispers, Sarai time. Lailah chomped on her chocolate chip pancakes with her eyes closed. Delicious, she said. Come, let's pray now, said her mom. After Sarai, Lailah snuggled back into her bed until her mom woke her up again, this time for school. As she left the house, her mom handed her a note. Lailah, please give this note to Mrs. Penworth. Without her lunchbox to carry, her fingers felt extra free and swingy. She felt so light, she skipped to the school bus stop. On the school bus, she read her mom's note. Dear Mrs. Penworth, this will be Lailah's first time fasting for the month of Ramadan, so it's an exciting time for us. Please excuse Lailah from lunch for this special month. Thanks, Mrs. Malik. Lailah didn't feel so bouncy anymore. What if Mrs. Penworth didn't know about Ramadan? No one else would be fasting with her. She folded the note into a teeny tiny square and hid it in her book bag. Lailah walked slowly to her class. Her throat felt dry all morning. When lunchtime arrived, she still hadn't given Mrs. Penworth her note. Lailah, did you forget your lunch? Asked Mrs. Penworth. Lailah opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Samantha volunteered. I'll share my lunch with Lailah. Mrs. Penworth shook her head. Thank you for the offer, Samantha, but Lailah, please get a sandwich from the cafeteria. So Lailah wasn't able to tell her teacher, and her teacher thinks that she forgot her lunch. Lailah followed her classmates to the cafeteria. Lailah, do you want some of my cream roll? Asked Anna. Layla thought of telling Anna that she was fasting, but she didn't think anyone at Sunnyvale Elementary School knew about Ramadan. No, thanks, she started to say. I didn't bring my. Are you sure? Asked Anna, unwrapping the cream rolls. Layla watched the cream roll get smaller and smaller, and she didn't feel so sure. Cream rolls were her favorite. She looked away. Her nose still smelled food. Layla wished she had given Mrs. Penworth the note. Even Isaiah's bologna sandwich looked tasty. And Layla didn't even like bologna. Her stomach rumbled. Suddenly, she had an idea. While everyone was busy eating, she sneaked out of the cafeteria. Her stomach stopped growling. Sometimes when you're hungry and you smell food, it makes you feel even hungrier. Why, Layla, it's a pleasure to see you. But what brings you here at your lunchtime? Asked Mrs. Carmen, the librarian. Layla felt safe among all the books. She opened her mouth, and this time words tumbled out. Layla told Mrs. Carmen that Mrs. Penworth and her classmates didn't know she was fasting. She told her how she missed Hind and Ishrash. It felt good to tell someone all the words that had been inside her mind all morning, and especially to tell her about Ramadan. Mrs. Carmen understood. You must feel special to fast this Ramadan, said the librarian with a smile. Fasting's a really big deal. It's very special. I do, said Layla. But why is it so hard to explain? You know what I always do when I can't get my thoughts out or when I get shy about talking? Asked Mrs. Carmen. I write my thoughts down. Layla got to work. She wrote neatly, adding extra loops to her capital L. She worked so hard her cheeks turned. Dear Mrs. Penworth, I didn't forget my lunchbox today. It's Ramadan. My mom finally let me fast. This means I won't be eating lunch for a month. Sincerely, Layla. P.S. I'm Muslim. P.P.S. My mom wrote you a note too. Here it is. P.P.P.S. Here's a poem I wrote about Ramadan. This is her poem. Ramadan is a month Muslims celebrate, a time to count our blessings and appreciate. Muslims fast before sunrise to sunset. But wait, that's not all just yet. Ramadan is a time for lots of prayer. We help the poor people to show we care. So in the day, I won't be eating food, but hopefully we'll stay in a good mood. Layla hurried back to the cafeteria to join her class. Before school was out, she quietly dropped both notes onto Mrs. Penworth's desk. The next morning, Layla swung her fingers as she waited for the school bus. Would Mrs. Penworth like her poem? Layla hoped Mrs. Penworth wouldn't think she had forgotten her lunchbox again. She slowly climbed each step on the school bus. In class, Mrs. Penworth didn't say anything, so Layla wondered what had happened. At times like this, she wished Hind and Ishrat were there with her. They would know what to say. At lunchtime, Layla's feet felt heavy. She was sure Mrs. Penworth hadn't seen the notes. Everyone would think she had forgotten her lunchbox again. As she was leaving class, Mrs. Penworth patted Layla on the back and handed her a message. Mrs. Penworth had made her capital L and Layla's name extra loopy. Dear Layla, I enjoyed your lovely poem about Ramadan. I'm impressed you're fasting. What a special time for you. You and your family must be thrilled. Would you share your poem with the class today after lunch? You could go to the library this month instead of the cafeteria. Mrs. Carmen is excited to see you. Sincerely, Mrs. Penworth. P.S. Mrs. Carmen told me you missed your friends. I hope you keep making new friends with our class. So her teacher did read the note. Layla twirled all the way to the library. She couldn't wait to share her Ramadan poem with her class. Later, at iftar, she would celebrate this day. At the end, it talks about the author, and she shares some things about her experience fasting in Ramadan. And then it says that word, I guess I said it wrong, suhoor, is the meal Muslims eat before sunrise during Ramadan to start their daily fast. So suhoor, it was how you were supposed to say it. I said sarai, and that was wrong. Suhoor. And then iftar is a meal that Muslims eat at sunset during Ramadan to open the day's fast. The end.